I'm Pastor Steve Talmage at Love of Christ Lutheran Church in Mesa, Arizona, along with Pastor Nanette Christofferson and our intern Kevin Anderson. We try to provide introductions to two of the assigned readings for the upcoming Sunday. We're going to look at the Old Testament first lesson for Sunday, January 19th, 2025. A brief look at Isaiah 62, 1-5. Isaiah 62, 1-5 is a passage in the Bible where the prophet Isaiah speaks about the restoration and vindication of Jerusalem, which is often referred to as Zion. The passage is full of hope and promise as it emphasizes the transformation of Jerusalem into a place of glory and splendor in the eyes of all the nations. Isaiah 55-66 is often called Third Isaiah. My picture's a little blurry here, but it's the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem. The historical context for the third Isaiah is the period after the return of the Israelites from Babylonian exile, 538 BCE. You might remember, we've said it many times before in these Old Testament lessons, King Cyrus of Persia comes in, overtakes the Babylonians, and in 538 issues a edict that the Jews can return back to their homeland, and they can even take whatever remaining booty is available from what was taken from the temple in Jerusalem when they were brought into exile. And they can rebuild their walls, they can rebuild their temple. So Isaiah 55:66 is linked to that time period. Isaiah is a major prophet, covers a long period of time, and so most biblical scholars say that Isaiah was written by somebody using the name Isaiah, but not the original prophet Isaiah. Here's our lesson, 62 verse 1. For Zion's sake I will not keep silent, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until her vindication shines out like the dawn, and her salvation like a burning torch. So we have this announcement, this energy here in 62 verse 1 with God making the proclamation that God is excited and eager for this new start, this new creation, this redemption of the past. Zion, its meaning is mountain, and Jerusalem is built on top of a mountain, and that mountain is Mount Zion. So we have that interplay between Zion and Jerusalem. There are key themes here in 3rd Isaiah, and we have inclusivity and justice, emphasis on welcoming foreigners and eunuchs who uphold the covenant in 56, condemnation of idolatry, strong warnings against idolatrous practices and faithlessness, because that's what led to the exile in the first place. True worship, there's a need for genuine worship and social justice, because people were showing up for worship, but they weren't living out their faith identity to be blessed people to their neighbors, to the foreigners, to those who are in need, particularly women, widows, orphans. And so worship is always linked, genuine worship is always linked to our daily life of how we love our neighbor as ourselves. There's restoration and renewal, which our lesson is about. Promises of restoration, prosperity, and renewal in vivid poetic imagery. And then new heavens and new earth, a vision of a future transformed, where peace and righteousness prevail. So this last part, if you get through all Isaiah, where there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of devastation, there's exile, we come into 3rd Isaiah and there's just excitement about this new chapter that's being allowed to happen again, and really the second chance that the people of God have to get it right. Well, history will tell us they didn't. And that's why Jesus came. But anyhow, this is the key themes that you see in 3rd Isaiah. Well, as the people come back, God is, lifting and singing praises for this transformation that's going to happen. The nations shall see your vindication, and all the kings your glory, and you shall be called by a new name that the mouth of the Lord will give. So this is not just a private, personal experience of a few. This is going to have global implications. And people are going to see God do an amazing thing through these returning exiles. We have verse 3, you shall be a crown of beauty in the hand of the Lord, a royal diadem in the hand of your God. So this poetic imagery of God is going to take these former exiles. These folks have been displaced, or maybe they're the children of people who were displaced. Now they're coming back to Jerusalem. It's a mess. The walls have been torn down. The temple was destroyed. The Samaritans aren't too excited, and other neighbors aren't too excited to have these people come back. But God is saying to the people, I am going to hold you in the palm of my hand, and you are going to radiate the preciousness, the pricelessness of who you are as my people who've been called, and I've made a promise and I've made a covenant to the world that through you, I will bless you in a way that others will also be blessed because they will come to know who I am. And that's important, this question, who am I? As these people come back with their kind of broken history, their defeated history, now you're getting this vision of something spectacular going to take place. And in the New Testament, as I was looking at this reading from Isaiah, I went to this familiar passage for many in 1 Peter, that it's a reminder of whose we are. Peter says in chapter 2, 9-10, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people. Sometimes we forget when we see the church in decline, we see people are spiritual but not religious, we see people that don't want to be a part of organized religion. We think that God has abandoned the church, or what purpose does it mean anymore? And we tend to forget that God is able to work in the most desperate and difficult times, and even the most depressing, discouraging times. And part of the way God works is to remind us who we are. We are a people who have been chosen to be a blessing to the world. We are a royal priesthood. Through our baptism, we've been selected. We've been chosen by God to be God's servants for the sake of the world. We are a holy nation. As God's people, as God's beloved children, we have been set apart. That's what holy means, to be set apart, to do the work of God, which is always going to be the work of loving our neighbor as ourselves. And we are God's own people. Last Sunday you heard the announcement of who Jesus is, and in our own baptism we are announced to be children of God. Why? Why all this? In order that you may proclaim the mighty acts of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. We are people chosen. We are people who have been set free because we have been loved and forgiven by God, so that we in turn can love and forgive others. We have work to do. We have purpose. We have an identity. Back to our Old Testament, Isaiah 62:4, you shall no more be termed forsaken. Get rid of that remembrance of living in a foreign land. And your land shall no more be termed desolate. Look beyond the devastation of war and displacement and the ruin of your walls and temple and your farmland. God's going to do something new here and recreate. But you shall be called, my delight is in her, and your land married. For the Lord delights in you, and your land shall be married. This marriage, as we saw in the wedding of Cana, which is our gospel reading, is a time of celebration, of hope, of looking to the future, believing that God is creating something new and going to do something good. I added here a picture of the city of Dresden, well, the church in Dresden. The left-hand image is what happened when the Allies came and dropped all their bombs on the German city of Dresden. That's the church. But if you go there today, that's what it looks like now. And in the basement of that church, you will see elements of the destroyed church that were used to create this gorgeous chapel and a beautiful cross that reminds us that even when on the outside it looks horrible, that God is able to do renewal, transformation, and put light in the darkness. Verse 5, for as a young man marries a young woman, so shall your builder marry you. And as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your God rejoice over you. This is definitely a different image of God when you hear judgment in other parts of the Old Testament and even in Isaiah, where God is not happy. God is upset. God has been, blasphemed. God has been taken advantage of. God has been neglected for the sake of chasing after other gods. But God is coming in now in Isaiah, 3rd Isaiah, to say there is a future that's going to happen here. And there is hope. And it's the hope that you see in a young married couple who are just excited for the privilege and the opportunity to be in relationship with each other, to be surrounded by their family and friends who love them. And you just capture that in this picture here, but also in the words of Isaiah 62, verse 5. Well, if you're going through a challenging time, read this Old Testament lesson again and again, because you're reminded that God is not going to give up on us. And God is able to do great restoration, great transformation. And the ultimate way in which God's going to do that is through coming to us in the one named Jesus. And that's what Epiphany is all about. God appearing, revealing, manifesting God's self in the one named Jesus. So, God bless. Thanks for watching. Take care.